Felicitations. You have arrived at the Raven, Bay City's most deliciously macabre lodging experience. Fully cabled and enabled. How can I ease your journey through this world?
Altered Carbon drops you into its dystopian future stack first and expects you to pick up the lingo faster than an Envoy on a needlecast transmission. See what I mean? And while I totally get and appreciate that it wants to respect the viewer and not waste time hand-holding, there were certainly times where I was watching the first couple of episodes where I was sat there thinking, what the hell does that mean? So I've put together this nifty explainer for all the key terms you need to get your head around in Altered Carbon so you can really appreciate the show, which is very good, and so if you want to see more about it, make sure to subscribe to GameSpot Universe. What a plug. Anyway, Altered Carbon terms, let's go. Altered Carbon is set over 300 years in the future in a world where humanity has figured out a way to digitize consciousness. These digitized humans, or DHs, can be transferred onto a kind of memory stick called a cortical stack, or stack. These stacks live at the base of your skull, slotted in your vertebra, and can be transferred from one body to another. Except in Altered Carbon, your body is called your sleeve. This means that immortality is technically within reach for everyone. If your memories and personality can be transferred with ease, what's to stop you from living forever, hopping from one sleeve to another? Well, the answer to that is money. Sleeves cost a ton, and so immortality is reserved for the mega rich, who can afford to back up their stacks in the cloud and clone their sleeves so that they can live forever. These people are known as Meths, named after the biblical figure Methuselah, who reportedly lived to be over 900 years old. These Meths truly are the elite. They have unimaginable power and wealth, and even live in the clouds above Bay City. All of this has led to them becoming completely detached from the rest of humanity, who they refer to as being ground-born or grounders. Meths keep their clones and their stack backups in a place called Psychosec, which is a cloning and storage facility owned by Lawrence Bancroft.
Best sleeve money can buy. Put your wife in me.
How tasteful.
Back to sleeves then. The body you were born into is known as your birth sleeve, and the act of putting your stack into a new sleeve is called re-sleeving, and being awoken in a new sleeve is known as being spun up. However, being spun up is not always a pleasant experience. It can be disorienting for many people, especially if your previous sleeve died in a violent or traumatic way. It can also take some time for a stack to acclimate, and sometimes this can present as sleeve sickness. You can take reacclimation drugs to help combat the nausea and trauma of waking up in a new body. Sleeves have history. They are obviously living organisms created from DNA. When they're in the tank, they continue to produce hormones, which is why when you're re-sleeved, you're a little friskier than usual, shall we say. Depending on where or who the sleeve came from, it can have associated sleeve memories, like pheromones or even habits like smoking. If that's not your thing, you can opt for a synthetic sleeve, which is a lab-made body that possesses abilities such as shapeshifting to change your appearance. As I mentioned earlier, immortality is for the mega rich. In the case of sleeve death, where your body dies, or severe organic damage, measures can be put in place to ensure your survival. You can insure yourself, and if you die, can be re-sleeved into a clone, but it's expensive. Most people can afford to be re-sleeved once, but as the process is a little bit traumatic, unless you have the money to ease the transition, and you go through the aging process again, not many people have the stamina to do it more than once. In fact, most go into voluntary storage at the end of their lives, and come out for special occasions into a rented sleeve. New sleeves can be purchased with a sleeve mortgage, but again, it's horrifically expensive. If the stack has been damaged beyond repair and the data hasn't been backed up into the cloud, then real death can occur. And I'm pretty sure I don't have to explain to you what that one means. I hope. Re-sleeving can also be used in nefarious ways. Criminals can copy their stacks and place it into multiple sleeves. This act of multi-sleeving is highly illegal and can lead to you being erased if caught and prosecuted. However, it's obviously very difficult to catch anyone in the act. Resleeving also isn't for everyone. In the world of Altered Carbon, Catholics just aren't on board with these extended lifespans. These Neo-Cs or Neo-Catholics believe that a stack can't be a receptacle of the human soul, and that using them means that your soul won't ever reach heaven. Neo-Catholics have religious coding, which prevents them from being spun up once they die. This battle of ideologies has made Resolution 653 a strong point of contention. This bill would allow police officers to spin up murder victims to testify against their killers, but does so while ignoring religious coding. You might well wonder what's going on with the Raven, the hotel that Kovac stays in, that also seems to come stacked with more weapons than a small military base. Well, Altered Carbon alludes to a corporate war which happened at some point before the events of the TV show. Apparently this war got so bad that these hotels were fitted with artificial intelligence and guns to protect their guests. When the trading markets collapsed, these hotels weren't decommissioned, and instead the hotels bought themselves. These AI are hardwired to crave customers, which is why they're so desperate for business and so trigger-happy to protect their guests.
You couldn't just disable them?
I was coming to the defense of my first guest in 5 decades.
With enough firepower to bring down an airplane?
I'm fully licensed.
They also seem to be quite organised. Poe and his comrades are members of the AI Manager Association, which is a kind of union for AI hotel proprietors. Virtual reality in Altered Carbon is sometimes known as simulspace, and it's so advanced that it's often indistinguishable from the real, because your stack is directly plugged into the simulated concept or scenario. This means that you can actually be tortured in VR, experiencing pain and even death, but you never actually die in the real. In the case of people who die in extremely traumatic ways, their stacks can be caught in a trauma loop. Basically, their minds are almost destroyed and they're stuck in this traumatic construct. By using psychosurgery, a type of therapy in VR, they can be treated. There are a bunch of other miscellaneous terms that get thrown about in Altered Carbon, which sadly for me don't neatly fit into the sections that I've already done, so here they are.
Ava didn't leave me, you son of a bitch. She pulled down 30 years for dipping.
Like a dipper, which is Altered Carbon's version of a hacker. And a songspire, which is a kind of tree that grows on Mars.
This must have cost a fortune to ship here.
Several fortunes, actually.
CTAC, or Colonial Tactical Assault Corps, is a unified military that acts under the orders of the UN and travels the 7 settled worlds to protect the people. There are many drugs in Altered Carbon. One used frequently by soldiers is Reaper, which simulates a near-death experience. It can also be used in small doses to lower your body temperature and instill a feeling of cool indifference that makes it easier to commit violence. You can see now why it's used by the military. After training as a CTAC officer, Kovac later becomes an envoy soldier, a militia group who are against the idea of meths, especially as they seem to be above the law. They also believe that in order to be human, we need to be able to die. CTAC and envoy soldiers don't just use run-of-the-mill sleeves. They're souped up with neurochemical upgrades which can boost their nervous system, amplify the powers of the 5 senses, their intuition, and their physical capabilities. Envoy soldiers have undergone strict mental conditioning. They can quickly absorb information from their surroundings, break out of VR constructs, and rapidly overcome sleeve sickness without the need for drugs. This comes in handy while committing guerrilla attacks. They can needle cast, which means they transmit their consciousnesses faster than the speed of light into a waiting sleeve, maybe hundreds of light years away on a different planet. They can complete their missions, and then they can quickly beam back, all without suffering from sleeve sickness. So there we are, a brief breakdown of all the key terms you'll be hearing in Altered Carbon. For a spoiler-free review and a spoiler-filled review, make sure to subscribe to GameSpot Universe. We're also going to have a video on the key differences between the show and the book, so subscribe so you don't miss out. If you want to come contact me, I'm on Twitter at LucyJamesGames, and I'll see you in Bay City. Sorry about that accent.